Good day to one and all. I am NUSAIBA THASNI from English option, presenting my seminar topic on financial allocation to education. That is a topic from our unit 5. This is a general or the brief introduction to the topic. Education financing is a critical part of national development. Allocation of financing resources determine access, quality and outcomes. In India, education expenditure is seen as both a social investment and constitutional priority. So this is about the financial allocation that is a critical part of national development. It acts as a very crucial and very critical part to national development. And allocation of financial resources determines access, quality and outcomes of the education, and it is very efficient to the national development. In India, education expenditure is seen as a social investment and also the constitutional priority. And let us move on to the definition of the financial allocation. Financial allocation is basically a process of distributing public funds. It may be union fund and also the state budgets to the education sectors, that encompassing plan and non-plan expenditure for various subsectors. This is the definition of financial allocation, that is a process of distributing public funds, union or the state budgets to the education sectors, that is encompassing plan and non-plan expenditure for various subsectors. Let us move on to the significance of the financial allocation, that holds a wider impact of education. It is directly connected to the education, and financial allocation can affect access to education, particularly for marginalized group, by determining the availability of scholarships, subsidies and other forms of supports. The financial allocations, the effective financial allocations helps to the marginalized groups like SC/ST and the other backward communities to forefront to the society, that by getting the determining or the availability of the scholarship and subsidies from and other forms of support from the education sectors, that they can get equal opportunities to get the education. And sufficient financial allocation can help to develop a skilled workforce, contributing to the national development. So the sufficient or the effective financial allocation helps to the overall development of the nation. And the study of financial allocation enhances understanding of education policy, financial allocations and patterns of financing in education determined by the principles. By the studying of financial allocation, we understand about the education policies, financial allocations and patterns of financing in education, that is determined by the principles, that is related to, that is considered by the societal needs, fiscal constraints and also the context of privatization and liberalization and overall national goals. Then let's move on to the need of the financial allocation. The first one is constitutional mandate, that is Article 21A mandates free and compulsory education for all children aged 6 to 40. Adequate funding essential for implementation. So this is the need of the financial allocation, that the fundamental or the compulsory and free education policy of Article 21A, that is essential for implementation. So there is a crucial role in funding of resources, the financial allocation that is related to the Article 21A. So this is a need of the financial allocation to education. The first one is constitutional mandate, that is related to the Article 21A, that mandates free and compulsory education for all children aged 6 to 14. So there is a need to allocate the fund to education sector. The next one is human capital formation. For the human capital formation, the financial allocations act as a very crucial role, and investing in education creates a skilled, knowledgeable and healthy workforce, which is vital for economic growth and also the competitiveness in the global market. So through the effective or the financial allocation to education, develop the human capital formation, and also the it acts as a vital for economic growth and competitiveness in the global market. And the next need of the financial allocation to reduction of the poverty. Education breaks the intergenerational cycle of poverty by providing opportunities for better livelihood, that is basically focused on the marginalized or the economically backward communities or the region. The effective financial allocations helps to the reduction of poverty by getting better livelihood through education in a proper way. The next one is equity and social justice. Equity and social justice, through the financial allocation, we get the equity and social justice, helps to bridge the urban-rural, rich-poor, ensuring equal access to quality education for marginalized group. And the next, we already say that financing and resource allocations plays a crucial role in education policy. And the Right to Education Act mandates that the government allocates at least 6% of GDP to education. The GDP is the measures the total value of goods and services produced in a country. So we already discussed it earlier. And the Right to Education Act mandates that the government allocate at least 6% of GDP to education. Then there are two major sources of educational planning in India: the government and private sectors in different proportions share the entire expenditure on educational activities. So there is a two major sources of education planning: the government and the private sector. Then the public expenditure on education can be identified by the 5-year plans in India. Then these are the policies in India that is related to education. First one is Kothari Commission from 1964 to 66. That is first to recommend that the public expenditure on education be gradually increased to 16% of GDP to meet India's educational need. Then second one is National Education Policy, the NEP 1986, regarded the 60% of GDP recommendation as a national commitment. 1986 National Education Policy reiterated the 16% of GDP recommendation as a national commitment. Then the next policy is National Education Policy NEP 2020. Then that is also these are the major policies in India that is related education policies, that is Kothari Commission, National Education Policy 1986 and 2020. And let us move on to the impact of financial allocation. Funding, quality improvement, better infrastructure, modern laboratories and digital resources lead to the improved learning outcome and global alignment. So this is we discussing the merits of merits of a effective or efficient financial allocation to education, funding quality improvement, better infrastructure, modern laboratories, and digital resources that is lead to improved learning outcome and global alignment. And also it's also helpful to teacher development funds ensure better teacher salaries, continuous professional development, and recruitment of qualified faculty, improving classroom instructions. Then, access and retention schemes like midday meals, scholarship, and free textbooks funded by the budget increased enrollment, reduced dropout rates, and ensure better retention. So, these are the very the demerits of the merits of the effective financial allocation to education, that is improve the development of the education and also the national development. And let us move on to the major challenges faced by the education sector in related to the fund allocations. Inadequate overall funding, the persistent gap between the 16% target and the actual 3 to 4.5 spending hinders the systematic reforms and quality improvement. So the target, the 60% is the failure to attain the target, the 16%, and it is meet only to the 3 to 4.5%. And so this is a major challenge that is faced by the fund allocation to education. Then inequitable distribution and disparity in resource allocation, often favoring higher or urban education over elementary school education or disadvantaged regions. This is another kind of challenges, that inequitable distribution, disparity in resource allocation. Then inefficiencies and leakage, suboptimal utilization of allocated fund, corruption, and bureaucratic delays, leading to the resources not reaching to the intended beneficiaries. So these are the another major challenges, that is inefficiencies and leakages, the corruption, the suboptimal utilization of allocated funds, and the bureaucratic delay leading to the resource that is not reached to intended beneficiaries. Then the next challenges is related to high private expenditure due to public underfunding in increasing burden shifted to households, leading to a high share of private expenditure on education, which is exacerbates inequality. Then the next challenges that is faced by the fund allocation, focus on input allocation often prioritizes building infrastructure without sufficient focus on measuring and ensuring actual learning outcome. There is a focus on prioritizing building infrastructure rather than focus on measuring and ensuring actual learning outcome. And we can conclude the topic by analyzing the general idea that critical underinvestment India's educational aspiration as outlined in NEP 2022 are severely constrained by the consistent failure to meet the 16% of GDP public expenditure target, that is we discussed earlier. Then the prioritize the 16% of target, a concerned effort by both central and state government to substantially and rapidly increase the share of education in their respective budgets. And the improve fund utilization, enhance financial management, accountability, and transparency to ensure that every rupees allocated to translate into the tangible improvement in access and quality. Focus on equity, directed more resources towards foundational learning, teacher learning, and the institutions serving marginalized and rural population to truly leverage education for social mobility. This is the overall idea about the financial allocation to education. That is very critical to very crucial to the development of the nation and also the education sector. We discussed the general a brief introduction to the topic and the definition of the financial allocation and the policies of education policies of in India, and the major challenges, need, significance, and the merits of the financial the impacts of financial allocation to education sectors. That's all about the topic, and let us move on to MCQ session. This is the first question. What percentage of GDP did the Kothari Commission recommended for education spending? Option is 4%, 5%, 6%, and 8%. Answer is 6%. The second question. Who presents the Union Budget of India? President of India, Prime Minister of India, Finance Minister of India, Governor of RBI. Answer is Finance Minister of India. Question number 3. Which program aimed to provide free and compulsory education to all children aged 6 to 14 years? National Education Policy, Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, Skill India Mission, Digital India. Answer is Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. Question number 4. What was India's highest recorded share of GDP spent on education around 2000 to 2001? 2.5, 3.5, 4.26, 5%. Answer is 4.26%. The question number 5. The 11th 5-year plan was known as, first one is the economic growth plan, the education plan, the infrastructure plan, the agricultural plan. Answer is the education plan. Question number 6. What was one major target of the 20th 5-year plan in education? To eliminate board exams, to universalize elementary education by 2010, to privatize higher education, to increase the number of engineering colleges. Answer is to universalize the elementary education by 2010. Then the question number 7. What was the approximate allocation to the Ministry of Human Resource Development during the 11th 5-year plan? Answer is C. That is. The next question is, which of the following statement is true about public and private expenditure on education in India? This is options. Answer is private spending has increased due to reduced public funding. Then this is the assertion reason question. The assertion is, the government aimed to increase expenditure on education to 16% of GDP. Reason, the Right to Education Act 2009 required additional funding for universal elementary education. Answer is both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. Then the next question. The 11th 5-year plan is called the education plan. Reason, it allocates 4.6 times more funds to education rather than 10th plan, and focused on improving quality and higher education. Answer is both A and R are true, and R is the correct explanation of A. So that's all about the topic, the financial allocation to education, and thank you.